It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. And once again, he is raring to go. Your host, Mike Hewitt.
Listen, I got to tell you, first off, I got to tell you, the bigger thing is this is the show's 4th anniversary show. And for me, folks, that's a really big deal. I appreciate everyone that stayed with me as the audience has grown and have been a part of it. I can't tell you how excited I am. We've got Miles Bauer is in the studio with us rather than online. Ludwig, are we streaming?
Yep.
Not screaming, streaming?
Streaming on
So we're on
Facebook
streaming. There we are. And listen, folks, on the line with us, our first guest up this morning is Senate Majority Leader, Senator Arlan Meekhof. Senator, welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Hey, you know what? It's really exciting, and by coincidence, Senator, I don't know if you put the way the math works out, but last year for our 3rd anniversary, you were in the studio and was my guest.
Yeah, that's right. I had forgotten that.
Yeah, so we're turning into an annual thing. So,
Great.
Now, listen, I know you're busy this morning, but do listeners a favor. What's going on in Lansing during this election cycle? Are you guys just how is it affecting the atmosphere in Lansing? Is probably the better way to ask.
Yeah, well, it's busy. The Senate isn't up for election, but we are out helping some House members, and Senate's in session this week working on energy policy. A lot of things to do with Uber and Lyft, and trying to make sure that they're in a spot that they can operate inside the law, and because we have to change some of those to make sure that we remove some barriers for them. And we're working on a big package of bills that we sent over to the House, and it has a big impact for our job providers in Michigan and on the west side particularly. And it sounds odd, but it's corrections reform, and we're having lots of conversations about why inmates aren't ready for the workforce when they leave the correction system. So we sent over a 19-bill package, and every single bill passed unanimously except for one, and that one had a 1 no vote. So we think we got a pretty good package of bills to say, why aren't these people ready when they leave? What is it that they need? And so when they're available for their earliest parole, if they're not a danger, and they have all their certifications, that they can get out into the workforce and be productive citizens again.
So the idea there is not to, because I mean, the way TV portrays it is that these folks just become more hardened criminals. And what I'm getting from what you're saying is the idea is to give them some tools so that they can find a different path when they get out.
Yeah, that's correct. And we have many job providers that are willing to educate them even further, to help them in their businesses, but the availability of talent, skilled trade talent, is pretty tough right now. And if we can give them skills inside and then make sure that they're productive citizens when they get outside, I think that's good to everybody. That instead of being a tax consumer, they'll be a taxpayer.
That'd be a great thing. And if we can find, if this turns into something that will reverse the path of reincarceration, what a great benefit to society in general, along with the people.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of folks do come back. About 50 or 60% of them come back, but some of them are just on simple things like parole violations and other stuff. Not that they've committed another crime. Some of them do. I'm not saying that they don't.
Sure.
But if we give them great tools and they're able to earn a decent living, we think that they'll more likely stay employed and become a productive citizen.
Absolutely. I am definitely in favor with that, and it sounds like by the vote you just, with only one dissent, it sounds like everyone is on. It's not ideological, it's just logical.
Correct. I'm going to steal that one, Mike. Thanks.
There you go. Listen, Senator Meekhof, I know that you've got folks waiting. I genuinely appreciate you changing your schedule to join us this morning.
All right, great. Well, make sure you invite me to the 5th anniversary show.
Well, between now and then, all jokes aside, I want to get you in the studio so we can drill into some of these things that are going on.
Great. I'd be happy to do that.
All right, Senator, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Bye.
Now, listen, I'm doing the math over here. I think this is the 208th show. And I'm laughing at part of when we get into the second hour. By the way, folks, this is a 2-hour special. And so one of the things I'm excited about, we get into the second hour a little bit. I want to revisit some of the things. but I can't help but pause and think that's a lot of showtime, and what a lot of changes this show has been through since back in the beginning. And I gotta tell you, folks, Oscar Osbo, wherever he's at, knows this is. I hope he's listening, because when it started every week when it was time to go, I was so nervous. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? What if the guest doesn't? What if this? What if that? And
you were nervous.
I'm telling you. I mean, talk about stage fright.
Wow.
Because the fear was, if everything went wrong, and it's just me sitting here with a microphone for an hour, what do you do? Honest, I'm telling you, it was really. And then all of a sudden, over the course of the months, it just got to be, this is just what you do. So and Brian Thomas, you've been on radio forever, so you must remember a time when that was the case for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're just getting into this, and
yeah.
But see, I didn't have the same experience, because I got this, I just had to turn the mic off and play some music.
Oh yeah.
I had a quick exit, and I could blame it on equipment or something.
Well, when we had that happen early on, where a guest couldn't or whatever was the issue, and I noticed at the end of the show, I'm still living, I'm still sucking air. Nothing really terrible happened, so it's going to be okay. And then of course I used to do a whole bunch of show research, but then I found it's like the when they talk about how the great plan is a great plan until you meet the enemy. And I never actually stuck with any of the plans anyhow. So now it just become current events, and it's morphed, and I'm really liking it now. I really am having a lot of fun doing it.
Well, congratulations.
Now tell me, for speaking of congratulations, you've been joining us since I think March.
Yeah.
And this is your first time in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like you thought it would feel?
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah.
And Ludwig, you've been on since
December 2013.
That's when your first show was.
That's the first one I was on.
That's when you were a guest.
Yeah.
You were.
And then I was a guest again in like March of 14.
Yeah.
And then August after the primary.
Yeah.
Then I got smoked in.
You mean 25 to 75 was a bad loss, is what you're saying?
Just a little.
Folks, I wished you could see his facial expression.
Miles might have to watch out if I have to jump over that way. No, then I came in and was helping more with the video stuff and answering phone calls.
Right.
And then you asked me to start sitting in a little bit more. Because you got tired. I think you got tired of me texting him from the other room, answering calls, going, what about this? Why don't you say this? How about this point? He's finally like, do you just want to come in? Yeah.
You were here anyhow. I couldn't get rid of you.
Yeah, I was in there in a room by myself listening.
And Jim Riley was with us, and he's going, can you get rid of this kid? Is there something we can do with him? Then Jim Riley, I hope he's listening, because remember when he wore his sailor PJ shirt? I'm going to start getting snarky messages from him now.
Oh, yeah.
You know that.
One time he wore the shirt, and that was the only time he dare wear the shirt.
I bet he took it home and burnt it.
Yeah. It's framed.
We booted him pretty hard. It was a lot of fun. So, listen, over the course of the showtime, we've had I can't even count the numbers of folks that we've interviewed, and in fact we did one whole primary cycle where I think we interviewed every primary candidate in a 100 and some mile reach, which was a really big education for me, by the way. Both we were interviewing both the primary challengers who were challenging incumbents. That was fun. And then we were talking about some of the incumbents, but how much that wasn't very appreciated. But we had a lot of fun with those things too. Listen, folks, we're going to go to well, I guess we're not. He says 45 seconds. He's got the cards going. One of the things we've made a change in today, folks, is a switch in the time clock. So I'm going to be a little bit, what do you call it, confused? Yeah.
Potentially out of sync.
Out of sync. That's happened, I'm telling you. 30 seconds.
Yeah,
you
the out
gotta
of
see
sync's better because the confused is a normal state of mind.
Yeah, it is a state of mind. That's how you grow, though. I was confused, and I figured it out. Like right now, I just figured out. I've always wondered why we've got you in the station. I'm going, maybe we don't have to tolerate that anymore. That's what I'm saying. Listen, folks, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we've got a guest that we'll enjoy talking with. We'll be right back.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.
Now, back to the Mike Hewitt Show on News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
The Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com, and we are into segment 2 already.
Listen, folks, if you're just tuning in, we've got Miles Bauer here in the studio with us. Ludwig has got us streaming on Facebook, and we are celebrating the show's 4th anniversary. Listen, our next guest, or our guest on the line with us right now, is Michigan GOP Chairman Ronna Romney McDaniel. Ronna, welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Wonderful to be here, and congratulations on your 4th anniversary.
Hey, I appreciate it. We were talking in between you, and we had Arlan Meekhof start us off for a very brief moment earlier, but we were talking in between about the 4 years, and it's been kind of a blur, really. 200 and some shows, and I didn't realize it was that many until I was sat here doing the math, and wow, I can't remember. I've got to get on YouTube to track them down to figure out what it's been like. So.
Well, congratulations. Quite a milestone.
Yeah, we're having fun with it. Listen, there's going to be a big debate.
I hadn't heard. Really?
And I'm reading the cover of Drudge right now. It says, "Tonight is forever." And listen, I don't always agree with him, but I do with this one. This is a big deal.
This is their last chance to make their case to the voters, to share their vision. And, of course, Donald Trump is putting forth a new vision, a vision of change, of increased national security, of a better economy, of better care for our veterans, better health care. And Hillary Clinton's more of the status quo. And it's important that the voters get to see them tonight. I hope he makes his case well and wins on November 8th.
Ronna, I agree with you, and I didn't start out a Trump supporter, as listeners know. In fact, early during the primary, Miles Bauer became a co-host because of the ongoing debate. He's been a Trump-Publican since the beginning, and I was a cruiser, and so we had that respectful, friendly debate every week through the primary. But listen, now that we're where we're at, and I've really watched the WikiLeaks and the drip of what's really going on in D.C., I've become far more of a Trump-Publican than I ever thought possible, because I've come to believe what we need is someone to go in there for 4 years and flip the tables upside down and say we need to start again. Whereas Hillary is saying more of the same, please.
Well, and she really has been a dishonest person in her public career. And we knew that from the homebrew server. We knew it from Benghazi. We knew it from the classified emails. But with the WikiLeaks, you really see the depth of which her team has gone to hide things, to manipulate, to rig the system. And that is not what we need in the White House at all. We do need a change. And people need to remember, you are electing 2 branches of government in one vote this election. You are electing a president, and you are electing the Supreme Court. So that is what's so critical with this vote, because we know there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and we know this next president will be filling that vacancy and determining a generational path for our country. You know, we talked about that a couple episodes, Ron. I think that the next president will actually replace the vacancy in as many as 2 to 4 more. And I'm doing the math on it, because that Supreme Court would lean left for more than, just by math, more than the rest of my possible life. You know, the typical ideology, flip one way or another for 30 years. I'm not going to live that long to ever see a Supreme Court defend the Constitution and the people again if we let this go sideways. Yeah, and when Hillary Clinton was asked what are the criteria you will use to appoint a Supreme Court justice, the Constitution was nowhere to be found in her answer. No, of course, Donald Trump said the Constitution. They seem to think the Constitution is an obstacle, but I think it goes to an understanding or a lack of understanding of what the Constitution does. It's supposed to provide the people with liberty by restraining the government, and they don't see that as the goal. They want to have an all-powerful, behind-the-curtain government, and I don't live in Oz. I live in a real life. And you know the other fear I have, if she can turn the court into a rubber stamp, then the whole entire tricameral system collapses, right? Because now
she can basically dictate from the Oval Office. She doesn't even need to go to the House or the Senate.
Right, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We will lose our total framework, the checks and balances that have made our country so unique and so great. And, the shining city on a hill will be gone because she will use the courts to expand the executive office. And like you said, Miles, to rubber stamp her agenda and not to abide by the Constitution and what the founders put forward.
Amen. Listen, I've got my prayers on because we've got we've got two distinctly different paths, and one of them is dastardly wrong. But listen, Ron, I've got we're out of time, but somewhere in the next few weeks, I've got to get you back for a full segment so that we can dive into some of the issues we're really wrestling with. Okay.
Would love it. Thanks for having me. Happy 4th.
Thank you very, very much. And folks, listen, I think we've got on the line with us now Congressman Bill Huizenga. No?
Ruth Johnson.
Oh, Ruth Johnson. You're not Congressman Huizenga.
No, but he's a darn good one. I served with him in the House of Representatives.
He really is. Listen, Secretary of State Ruth Johnson, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
We were talking before the show started today. Miles Bauer, co-host in the studio with me. We were talking. This is the 4th anniversary for the show, and I don't know if you've noticed, but you've been with us on every single anniversary for the show, from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and now the 4th. So thank you very much for doing that.
Well, thanks for letting me be part of the tradition.
Yeah, it's been. Now tell us, just because we don't have a whole bunch of time, but tell us what's going on in the Secretary of State level. Are you kind of busy with the election?
Yeah, we're kind of busy with the election. We're actually seeing a 12% increase from the past presidential election as far as people asking for absentee ballots.
No kidding.
And yes, that's encouraging. We need more people to be involved, and we have removed 889,000 names since 2011 to clean up the qualified voter file, because I think that's central and the foundation to integrity. And Michigan uses paper ballots, so they can always be checked. And we have 1,603 very hardworking local clerks that conduct the elections. And Michigan was named one of the top states for election administration, so I'm very proud of our local clerks. And we have resources for them, like 2 to 5 minute YouTube training videos for consistency. And counties canvass everything, both Democrats and Republicans. They check every precinct, and we're very excited. We have procedures in place, and we are ready. Michigan, because all of our double checks in our system, it's kind of like we wear suspenders and a belt for integrity.
The bigger I get, I think I need to start doing that too. Listen, Secretary Johnson, we're out of time, but genuinely thank you very, very much for calling in on our anniversary.
Oh, you're welcome. Make sure you let everybody know. Don't forget to vote.
That's all we're doing. So, again, thank you very, very much for joining us, Secretary Ruth Johnson.
Thank you.
Folks, I think now we've got, is that right?
Yes, you are correct.
Finally, yes. Congressman Bill Huizenga.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
You're calling in this morning from the great state of Texas, aren't you?
I am. I landed late in Dallas last evening, and so battling a little Dallas traffic. You forget how, well, Texans will tell you how big everything is in Texas, but I've forgotten how big Dallas is. It is a big town.
But you've got a lot of traffic, though, even though it's a big town. So,
yes.
Now, you obviously know Grand Haven, so I'm stuck at a light on Jackson Street in Grand Haven just after coming south over the bridge. My sister from Vegas is in the car, and I'm about 10 cars back to be able to turn left. And I say, I hate traffic jams. She starts laughing at me. 10 cars is not a traffic jam. So,
yes.
We get kind of spoiled
remember,
here.
I'm from Zealand. If you have to wait an entire light cycle, that is a traffic jam. Now, Sundays don't count. Everybody is expecting that, the traffic jam on the way to church. But
you guys would never make it in Chicago.
Yeah, our co-host Miles Bauer, he's just sitting here shaking his head.
Well, see, Miles, we choose to have our rage at a one light cycle intersection versus a 2-hour commute to go 14 miles.
Now think about that for a minute, Miles. We can either choose to live the way we do, or you can choose, and I don't understand what you do there. I don't get it.
You know, I can fly here quicker than I can get to downtown Chicago.
Wow.
Is that when you're standing in downtown Chicago?
Wow. Well, Mike, you've been at this a while now. This is awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 years, Bill. And you've been in the studio a few times with me. In fact, once we get through the election cycle, I'm going to beg you to come back in to drill.
Oh, is there an election going on? I had kind of forgotten on the.
I was talking to Chairman Romney a few minutes ago, and we're talking about the Drudge Report where it says tonight is forever. With this debate coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, hey, look, we all know that this is a pivotal time in our country, and in my mind, and I think in a lot of other people's minds, there's nothing more pivotal than the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
When I'm talking to people, obviously there's a whole lot of opinions all over the place. Amongst conservatives, amongst Republicans, amongst the independents and the general electorate as a whole.
Right.
But almost every single person will bring up the Supreme Court and their concern one way or the other with it. And, look, we know for sure there's one appointment, in all likelihood two, and quite possibly three.
Right.
3 of the 9 justices are going to be appointed by the next person in this 4-year term. And that literally, that isn't about 4 years. That's about 40 years.
Yeah,
that's the influence.
That's exactly right. Listen, Congressman, I know that you're in Texas on meetings, and I'm up against a hard time. What I would like to do, though, I wasn't joking. When we get past the election, I want to get you in here and let's drill into some topics.
Would love to do that, and my guess is we'll have a couple of things to talk about after the election.
I guarantee it. All right, Congressman Huizenga, thank you very much for joining us.
Congratulations, Mike. Keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Folks,
right, bye-bye.
Folks, we'll be right back.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com, because you deserve it.
This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
And you're listening to The Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by renegaderiver.com.
Listen, folks, we are celebrating the 4th anniversary. If you're just tuning in, we've got Miles Bauer, co-host from Chicago, Illinois, actually sitting in the studio with us. So welcome, Miles.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is really good to have. We'll have to, in the second hour, we're going to have some fun diving into that a little bit more. But we've also got Ludwig in here and Brian Thomas keeping us on path. So, Miles, when you look at the polling going on, you're absolutely believing what they're selling, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is just so much diversity out there depending on, what the various different agendas are. When you actually dig into the details of the polls,
right,
you see 50-50 splits between the two parties. You see, well, if you don't answer, if you're still undecided, then we'll just call that a Hillary vote. But some of the interesting things
if you say they're voting for Trump, a lot of them are getting hung up on.
Yeah.
So they're not getting included in the math.
Yeah, but I like some of the other things when I've dug into some of the polls where Trump is getting more Democrats than Hillary is getting Republicans, and I find it interesting that above 40 years old, that they're leaning far heavier towards Trump.
Right.
So you're starting to see a few patterns that are kind of consistently showing up, that are going back to the demographic and not just a hard party line.
I don't think that, and we've talked about this a lot even in the primary,
right,
that what we're really witnessing, and you threw out the idea, and by the way, I've gotten right on board with it. I think what we're really watching here is the reconfiguration of both major parties, which hasn't happened since post-World War II.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
And the thing I was reading yesterday is that because the millennials didn't actually go through the Cold War,
right,
so they didn't have to go through all those drills and see all those newscasts. That's a completely blind spot for them.
And they're not teaching it in school, by the way.
Right.
They're not saying, by the way, Stalin killed more people than Hitler. They're not telling that story at all.
Well, most of these kids going to be voting were toddlers when the World Trade Centers went down. They realize really what that is. It was actually, it's in a history book now more than
Yep.
it is
Yeah.
current. So that effect of why are we fighting Iraq? Why are you even fighting radical Islam? What does that even mean? Is it the same for them as it is somebody in their late 20s, early 30s, and beyond? And that's a big difference. Most of these kids have only grown up knowing Obama
Sure.
and his America. They don't know anything different.
Sure.
Yeah, and I can completely agree with that because obviously I studied World War II in high school, but I actually lived in France for a year while I was in high school, and I went to the beaches on Normandy, and suddenly Normandy came completely different to me. It was no longer just words in a book. This was a beach. And you can still see some of the equipment in the water.
Yeah, but one of the things, now we're talking about when you were in high school, right?
Right.
Which was a few years ago, folks. Yeah. So, I'm just saying. But one of the things I remember you talking about, and this probably wouldn't be true now because of exactly what we're talking about with ages and generations passing, but I remember at the time talking to you saying, what do they think about Americans? And the way you articulated it back then was the older people that lived through the war love America, and the young people hate America, even though they were wearing blue jeans and cowboy hats.
Yeah, so they were constantly throwing Vietnam up
Sure.
at me, yet
they started it.
Well, yeah, exactly. That was
the
ironic
Let's not get truth in our way.
Exactly. Exactly.
I can tell you yesterday in class we talked about the GDP. It was one of the chapters.
Yeah.
And I asked
You're a student, right?
What's that?
You're a student?
No, educator.
Oh, it scares the bejeebers out of me, folks. I'm just saying.
And I'd ask him, who's number one? And
number one
GDP.
Yeah, tell folks.
America.
I know the answer to the question. Tell them what that means.
Oh, gross domestic product.
What's it mean?
It's your consumption plus your investments plus your government spending plus your net exports equal your GDP. So it's the total overall wealth
goods and
of the
services.
nation of goods and services.
I thought China was out in front of us now.
Depending on what you look at, most of the most current census data is 2013.
Yep.
Between now and then, it's changed a little bit, but as of what the data is saying is we are still number one.
Okay.
We know that's a little skewed because things aren't included like food and health care too. But anyway, so I asked them who's number one, and most of them never said America. And I said, what do you, wait. If anybody ever asks you what number one is, we are. We're America. We're number one in everything. Even if we're number 12, we're the best. And I got dirty looks. Like, how dare you? I said, listen, I'm American exceptionalism. I'm number one in everything. America's the best at everything. And I had 19, 20-year-old kids look at me like, you jerk. How
But
dare
listen, you watched the football team the other day where the entire football team stayed in the locker room except for one guy goes out there on his own, stands there for the national anthem. I think the rest of those people are pigs that just don't get it. They need to be smacked upside the head by their parents. I passionately believe that. Whoever's raising those kids are the fault of what's going on. I don't know how else to say
The
it.
coach led that, by the way.
But then maybe he needs to get smacked upside the head or fired.
He threatened the player that if he went out there, he'd be removed from the team and his scholarship and everything.
Yep. That's just think about what you just said.
Yeah.
They're threatening the man's scholarship because he loves his country.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, we're going to have fun in the second hour. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
something's
Usain
wrong
Bolt-
with our culture, and that's what the Enigma Report is on today.
Yeah, Usain Bolt, a Jamaican, stops an interview during the Olympics to stand quietly and observe our flag and national anthem.
Yep.
A Jamaican.
Yep.
A veteran pole vaulter, in the midst of going to pole vault, stops, drops his pole, and stands at attention. And yet we got these football players saying, well, I'm protesting. They don't know what they're even protesting.
Right.
It scares me. It really, really does when you have an entire, and I don't want to paint with a huge brush, the folks that have been poisoned by academia. Sorry, you two. I'm just saying. The folks that have been in the youngest generation, they're really stealing these people's minds from their parents. And the parents that are paying for the circus need to step up to the pump and be parents and not friends and not it's just the young. We're off the tracks in that generation. Anyone that thinks it's okay to disrespect, it's profound and scary to me. It is.
Yeah, so even if you don't appreciate the policies of the government today, can you not at least show respect for those who died in defense of the country, whether it was domestic or whether it was foreign? Can you not at least respect that they gave their life?
I would think they would. And listen, rather than the guys standing out there and kneeling or turning their heads or whatever, The idea that they stayed in the locker, talk about bunker mentality, it was cowardice. To not show their face to the folks that went out there to support them who served, or by the way, the parents who still have young folks serving, the parents that lost people, lost family members,
right,
for defending their right to be cowards, which is that's how I translate this. Hide in the locker room like a bunch of little pansies.
I can tell you that concerns me.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because when we went to a football game not too long ago, Mike, I said to you, where's the football teams? The national anthem was playing and the teams weren't out. I've never seen that. So I'm almost questioning, was it a protest that was happening? Or is that just their tradition?
To stay in the locker room?
Yeah, because I've never seen a team stay in the locker room. And yet both teams, when we went to that football game a few weeks ago, were in the locker room during the national anthem.
At the GVSU game?
And I mentioned to you.
No, they came out with the flags flying and everything else.
After the anthem. It was after the anthem.
I don't recall it that way.
Yeah, well, it was after because we were walking to find our seat. There was no teams on the field, and all of a sudden they're doing the anthem. I go, wait a second, there's no teams out here.
I don't remember it that way. But listen, folks, between now and next week, we're going to drill into that because if that's the case, I want to find out how and why and all of that. So that's how I see that.
And the point is not to take away everyone's First Amendment rights. The point is just, can you not show respect? Yes, you have the right to sit there and do that, but is that really the respect that you are trying to show?
It's truly about respect, and that's part of the Enigma Report. When I question culture, it's where common respect for the people around you has gone. We don't respect elderly people anymore. We don't respect our parents. We don't respect our educators, Ludwig. And you start looking at these things, you go, what happened to respect? Honest, folks. Listen, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to have a very special guest on. So bear with us through the words, and we'll be right back.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.
Now, back to the Mike Hewitt Show on News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
And the Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. So, see, we're retweaking the show, and your music wasn't there.
I saw that.
So
that's part of our new time deal.
I have to figure that one out. So anyway,
hey, every time you try something new, there's going to get bumps till the pavement gets smoothed out.
You don't want to hear Mike sing, so you might want to bring the music in.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
There's my lifelong friend. I'm telling you. There's a bus. Let's throw him under it. Listen, folks, if you're just tuning in, we've got Miles Bauer in the studio, which is kind of unusual as a co-host. Usually he's somewhere else. Ludwig is always here, and he's got us streaming. On the line with us, we've got former Congressman Pete Hoekstra joining us, who's currently the co-host for the Michigan Trump campaign. Congressman, welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Hey, good morning.
Listen, I really, really appreciate you joining us, and this is our 4th anniversary show, so having you here is some extra importance for me personally, at least, Pete. Thank you.
Well, hey, congratulations for hopefully speaking the truth and actually, being aggressive and actually telling both sides of the story, or at least countering the narrative of Main Street or Lame Street media. It's absolutely awful.
Yeah, I know how well we're doing by how much hate mail I get. So,
yeah,
some folks don't like the truth. And you know that from your life's experience. Listen, tell us, Pete, what are you following the polling for this race?
Yeah, I'm following the polling, but if I had followed the polling in my initial race in 1992, I would have given up with about 6 weeks to go, and I certainly would not have been working anymore the week before the election because all the polls showed me 16 points down. And so it's kind of like, hey, go home and go to bed and do something else. But don't campaign anymore because you're not going to win.
Sure, yeah.
But, I ended up winning by 5 points. And so, I went from 27 to 48 when the poll said, hey, he's going to lose by 16.
And part of that, as I recall, is you rode a bicycle everywhere.
I really did. But this election now is about this now is all about making sure we elect the right person on November 8th. And it's amazing. We were talking off air, but there's a report out today in the WikiLeaks that. And here's what the WikiLeaks says. We need to use our diplomatic and more traditional intelligence assets to bring pressure on the governments of Qatar and Saudi Arabia, which are providing clandestine financial and logistic support to who? Who? This is Hillary Clinton. Providing support to ISIL and other radical Sunni groups in the region.
It's unfathomable.
It is amazing. This is our Secretary of State funding ISIL, creating an caliphate, which led to the massacre and the genocide of Christians and civilians throughout Iraq and Syria. And today they've got 94,000 troops positioned to try to take back a city of 1 million people, Mosul. It is, how this woman can even be on the ticket of a major party is beyond me.
Congressman, what I find most fearsome isn't even that. And by the way, not to dissuade it, because the seeds that she planted have radicalized Americans to kill Americans on our soil. But what really I find just fearsome beyond measure are the folks that are still willing to support her, including our entire media apparatus. Absolutely off the hook, insane. I don't know another word. I can't rationalize how they're ignoring talking about what you just articulated, but they're hung up on what Trump said 11 years ago, or their latest campaign contributor to the Hillary Fund that has accused him.
Because they're in Kardashian mode, they're not paying attention to the media.
Talking about the people, the electorate?
Yeah.
I don't get it. How anyone, forget whether you're a liberal or a conservative, forget all that stuff for a minute. You're supporting absolute corruption.
Right.
To support this woman.
16 minutes to 29 seconds. That's the difference between a video tape or a voice tape versus WikiLeaks mail by the mainstream media. Yeah. That's why this doesn't get to anybody. 29 seconds versus 16 minutes?
No.
Oh, yeah, no, it's unbelievable. And you also have to go back to, remember Ben Rhodes. This is the national security, deputy national security advisor to the president. And, there was a story out 3 months ago where and this is done by the New York Times Magazine. So it's the New York Times. They're not exactly friendly to us. Right, exactly. But they talk in this article about Ben Rhodes, and this is Ben Rhodes speaking, his own words, saying, we created an echo chamber in the media to sell the Iranian deal. So the media was complicit in selling this Iranian agreement to the American people, rather than doing a deep dive into whether this was good for America or whether it was bad. They were an echo chamber for these folks. It is, the depths that these people have gone to is absolutely unbelievable.
Congressman, would you agree, though, that this is the only way the press can provide cover fire for Hillary? That it's the only way they can provide her cover to where she's not exposed for either a lack of knowledge, lack of policies, or just more of the same?
I can only imagine if Dick Cheney had his own personal server, if Dick Cheney had been talking about weapons going to ISIL, and us knowing about it from our allies and those types of things, the press would have demanded impeachment. But no, what the media is doing, they want Hillary Clinton elected. They want her agenda, which is what? Supreme Court justices that have life experience. Forget about the Constitution. We just want them to have life experiences. That will not fight radical jihadists, that will continue the weak economic recovery we have. Donald Trump, I think yesterday, started using the term, it's time to drain the swamp of Washington.
Amen.
And that includes the swamp of the media. I've never been that anti-media, but when I've watched what they've done in this campaign, it really is. It actually, we should be frightened by it.
I really am frightened, Congressman. And my part of this is, listen, they're the only private entity that has constitutional protection. But with that comes a duty and a responsibility to the people, and that they're molesting the electorate with misinformation and flatly hiding the truth, not ignoring it. They're hiding it. I've never seen anything like it before.
Congressman, a quick question for you. Do you have any thoughts around, because the campaign's been so negative to put Trump in a bad light, do you have any feel for the closet Trumpers that are going to show up on Election Day, but right now they're singing a different tune?
Well, actually, you don't know who the closet Trumpers are. Obviously, when I ran 20 years ago, there were a lot of closet Hoekstra people because I didn't know them, and I was probably as surprised as what they were when I won. What I do know is that as I go around the state, Sunday night, I'll give you an example. I was in Traverse City, and I was speaking at an event there, and I walked in, and there was a guy that had a T-shirt on that was and had on it Donbo with Donald Trump dressed as Rambo on his shirt. And I said to the guy, I said, I want one of those shirts because I'm seeing Donald Trump on Monday morning in New York City. Do you have an extra one? And he said, no, but I'll give you this. So he literally gave me the shirt off his back. And, he what he did is he went down to Walmart, bought another shirt, came back to the event, gave me the shirt, put a Febreze sheet with it, said, this way it won't smell when I give it to Donald, when you give it to Mr. Trump. And I said, I'm going to, I'll have Diane wash it before I take it. So I gave it to Trump on Monday morning. Yeah. And, but, and then the guy told me, he said, this is my 21-year-old son who is a union member. And, he came up with this Donbo idea, is doing these T-shirts. He's put up a website. And then I traded texts with his son. And he said, hey, I'm going around talking to all my union friends up here, telling them they've got to vote for Donald Trump because we've seen what Hillary's trade policies and what she's done to coal. She's eliminating union workers' jobs. So there's a lot of these folks that are not closet Trumpers, but that are not traditional Republican voters who are out there, who are voting, who are coming out, and they're doing these things at the grassroots level because they feel so passionate about the need for change. It's great.
Absolutely. Listen, we're down to about a minute, so I got to ask you one last one. When we watch the debates gone by so far, I think that if I'm just scorecarding it and being honest, Hillary won the first one. I believe that Donald Trump won the second one, both in energy, facts, and overall. Just if I'm just scoring it like I'd mentioned to Chairman Ronna Romney McDaniel this morning, if I just use a scorecard, he won. Do you think he's all set? Do you think he's all set for the big final debate?
Well, when we had a small group of us that met with him Monday morning to talk about the debate preparation. Yep. And I think he's ready. Very good. And the stakes are high. Yeah.
Wow, they really are.
But, the stakes are high for the country. I can't imagine the amount of pressure on Donald Trump today as he's going in and taking a look at this and facing, the potential, recognizing that, this whole election could hinge on what happens tonight.
Yep, I would have won. Pete is giving me the countdown, so we're out of time.
Okay.
But
all
listen,
right. Hey, great talking to you. Congratulations.
Congressman Pete Hoekstra, thank you very much.
Hey, have a great day. Yep, goodbye.
Okay, folks, we'll be right back after these messages.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com because you deserve it. And once again, it is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. It is the special anniversary edition of the Mike Hewitt Show, and we have the bonus second hour.
Wow. It's like sudden death overtime or something like that.
Yeah, I walked out and said, "Have a good week" to the nice lady at the front.
We tried to.
wait, we got another week.
We tried to trick him into going, but he figured it out. Listen, folks, if you're just tuning in, it is the show's fourth anniversary. We've got on hand with us Ludwig von Wiedendorfsky, who's got us streaming live on Facebook, as I often ask. Is that thing working?
It is, as of now.
Very, very nice. Can people actually hear it?
Yeah, iPhone 7 with their stupid connector.
Oh, because there's no speaker thing, right?
Well, it's, no headphone jack, so everything's going through the lightning cable, and apparently
next
that
week
wasn't reading. So.
Next week, let's use my iPhone because I don't have your kind of money. I have an old one and it still works. Listen, also with us is Miles Bauer, who normally is on the line from Chicago, Illinois, and he's joining us here in the studio. Are you liking it in the studio, by the way? It's a little bit different?
Yeah, I mean, it actually, kind of flows naturally.
It's a lot easier.
I'm normally staring off into my kitchen trying to get inspiration,
looking
at the refrigerator.
And the other thing, in fact, Ludwig and I talked about it when he wasn't here, as he's often not. And
4 shows in 2 years.
See what I'm saying, folks? He's all the time absent.
3 sicknesses and a Vegas vacation. And I even offered to call in while I was waiting in TSA's line.
Listen, when I went to Vegas, I did the show from remote, and Jim Riley was here.
I called in from New York.
You were on location trying to prove that New Yorkers were just like the folks in Iowa.
Sans a microphone.
Listen, and I think we've got a caller. Is that right? Listen, who's on the line with us?
Hi, this is Sarah Hewitt-Jones.
Hey, Sarah Hewitt-Jones. Welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show.
Well, happy anniversary.
Hey, that's very nice of you to call in. Folks,
I've had a major feeling of nostalgia all morning listening to Miles Bauer and my old friend Meekhof.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Now, you're down in Indiana, right?
I'm in Indianapolis. That's correct.
All right. Do they have guns in Indiana? I'm just asking.
Do they have what?
Guns?
Yes, they certainly do.
Okay.
she has I think she gave us her maiden name. It sounded like your name.
It's kind of fascinating. Yeah, folks, you're listening to my second oldest daughter, who's known Miles Bauer for her entire life, because Miles and I go back a ways.
I will always remember sitting in the Lazy Boy, moving my Coke from side to side as Sarah kept trying to grab it.
Oh, yeah. Now she just waits till you look away and she takes it. So
I am my father's daughter.
Oh, very, very nice. Now here's the big question: how the heck did you get the call-in number?
Oh well, you have a good friend named Matt.
Oh, Matt, you sold us out, didn't you?
I had talked to Marie a few weeks ago about this, and we were trying to get them all your daughters calling because I know how proud you are of them.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, Marie's working the shop.
Marie's running the shop,
so she is all listening and watching live.
Yeah.
And the other two daughters were working.
They're all working,
and they couldn't make it. And so you have your representative here, and I know you talk about her a lot too, and how well she does down in Indiana. So I was pretty excited that she was able.
Well, I spent a couple years in the car business, and so the folks that have known me for a while giggle because I say a couple years. It was 34 years in the car business, running stores, and came up through the finance side. And one of the last things I wanted in the world was for one of my daughters to be in the car business. And Sarah on the line with us is in the car business. And listen, you have far outpaced my career, and I'm very proud of you.
It's a millennial thing.
Ouch.
Yowzers.
Sarah, these two old guys are going crazy right now.
I think we're being back to being called grumpy old men or something.
I think you sunk my battleship.
I do have to say I've been listening all morning, and I was slightly offended about a couple things.
All right, take Ludwig. You tell Ludwig the way it is then.
Well, first of all, I am an educated woman of millennial generation, and I am voting for Trump, and I do pay attention.
Wait. But here's the problem. You're female. I was told by the media that all females want to take Trump out and burn him at the stake.
Well, here's my thing. I am so disappointed in my fellow women who are making emotionally fueled decisions rather than educated decisions. It's so embarrassing to me.
Wow, we may have a new co-host.
There you are. I'm going to get replaced. I got to have people call in.
I was wondering what we were going to do with that chair that was empty once we throw them out.
But they were saying earlier that we're not paying attention as the young folks, and we are. The problem is that you're paying attention to an incredibly biased media. I mean, the amount of time they spend on Donald Trump's inappropriate verbiage versus Hillary's scandals and obviously the relations between the FBI, the White House, and the Clinton Foundation. Why are we not talking about that?
Now, tell me something. You're taking a few classes in school again. Is your professor leaning a little bit on the liberal side?
Oh, by far, yes, very much. She loves me, by the way.
What's that? No, she loves you?
Oh, no, I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, yeah. Well, the reason I'm asking is that, folks, just so you get some background, once in a while, Sarah will forward to me a question or some prose from her professor, and I'm reading it. It's not like Democrat or Republican or left or right in the traditional sense that I grew up thinking in. This person that's teaching this class is way off the left scale. Communist, by definition. If you just write it down and say, what does this equal? It is uber-left communism out of the Soviet Union. Literally. And it's all economics. They're all economic-driven questions. And I'm thinking, what kind of moron, how do you make it to the point of being a professor and teach economics and forget the fact that there is absolutely no example contemporarily or historically of that economic engine working? It doesn't work.
I'll tell you how that happens. With college, we're looking at the input and not the output. We need to be looking at what the curriculums actually contain, and we need to have our employers involved in those curriculums.
Oh, yeah, Ludwig, you're in trouble.
Well, that's where us adjuncts. That's where us adjuncts come from the real world. We didn't sit in a college and write a book on theoretical economics. We are living and working in the economy, and it's amazing that the looks I get sometimes when I say this is how the economy actually works, and then they look at me going, no, my other teachers say that's not how it works. Well, your other teachers have a PhD, they went to school for 30 years, and they wrote 12 books on economy that they've never actually lived in.
Listen, part of that is, and you both the fellows I'm sitting here with, I don't know about you, Brian, but both these two fellows are master's degrees, et cetera, extraordinaires.
Our brains are way bigger, too, by the way.
No, your head is fatter. That's not my bigger brain. Let's just get that clear here. But here's the part that really I find is where the problem is that we used to have in America a lot of apprenticeships, and even in fields like lawyering, and so you would go to a person that had some esteem and respect in the community, and you would seek a position and earn your way up as an apprentice. And anyone wants to know more about that, just look up Abraham Lincoln's history. This is how we did it. And what we have done is we've traded all of that stuff away and replaced it with what's becoming with each generation a more far-reaching leftist atmosphere. It's like I joke, how often do I get to quote Malcolm X? But he was spot on when he said only a fool would let his enemy educate his children.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah, I got a quick question for you, going back to your millennial point.
Yes.
So would you say that you are an outlier relative to your friends of a similar age, or would you say that you're more the norm?
I would say I'm more the norm than we are given credit for.
Okay.
I'd agree with you because I'm seeing it in my classes. A lot of these shadow voters they keep bringing up all of a sudden, Trump Republicans in the closet, feel relieved when they have me as an instructor, especially at one of my universities, because they actually get to almost speak out against everything that their other classes represent.
Right. I would agree.
You would like my class because you'd be right in line. You go, yep, I get that. I'm with that. Because when your dad shows me some of the things, I go, I teach it the way you're telling her.
Listen, folks, I have to tell you the truth, though. If Sarah was in his class, within the first hour, he'd find himself sitting down and she'd be up teaching the class. He'd be going, what the heck just happened?
That could be true.
Listen, folks, we've got to go to a break. Sarah, you're I don't know if you've got time, but you're more than welcome to stay on as we dive into some other topics, okay?
Hey, I'll stay on. This is fun.
All right. Oh, boy, we're creating a monster. Folks, we'll be right back after a few sponsors give us their word.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms. All priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.
Now, back to the Mike Hewitt Show on News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
And the Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com on the special bonus second hour of the 4th anniversary show.
So there's someone driving down the road right now. They're thinking, he's back on again. I thought he was over. Didn't we get rid of him? Listen, folks, if you're just tuning in, we've got Ludwig von Wiedendorsky, who has us streaming live on Facebook. Miles Bauer is actually in the studio with us. And Ludwig and my daughter Marie arranged to have number 2 daughter Sarah on the line with us. And so my number 2 daughter, as I've got 4 daughters, I've just numbered them. Number 2 is on the line. And by the way, I have to apologize to you about something, Sarah. Back when I was talking about everyone's birthday, specifically yours and Melissa's birthday, I was doing the math in my head. I made you both 1 year older than you really are.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm the one who corrected you, actually.
Nice. Listen, what I want to talk about in this segment, folks, is actually what you brought up earlier is closet Trumpers. And we joked about it a while back, and it was not a slam on anybody, so no hate mail, please. But we joked about the gay folks are out of the closet, now the conservatives, and then specifically the Trump folks are in. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that goes with that is actually 2 of the things. We've got 2 medias driving it. We've got the cable news media, where largely, including Fox News to a degree, makes you feel stupid if you're a Trump person. MSNBC, the rest of them are just over the top crazy with their driving that narrative. But on Facebook even, if you say I'm a Trump-publican or a Trump supporter, I'm going to vote for Trump, I'm telling you, the folks will pile on. They're people on my side, by the way. Some of them that I've been friends with for a long time, they don't just say I disagree with you. They attack you.
Right. And you're supposed to be the most tolerant of all. These people that attack you right away, they're the most tolerant, right? The left is the tolerant side. We tolerate gays. We tolerate minorities.
Well, they don't.
Until you say anything for them and then or against their point of view, and they're not tolerant.
But listen, they aren't tolerant. We all know that's not true. That's why they segregate people into little voting blocks, because they got to say different messages to the different groups. They'll say the gay community this message. They'll say to the black folks that message, the Hispanic folks that, the white people that, and the grumpy old folks, they got a message for us, and they got a different message for you folks in the millennial realm. But that's how they do it. The folks on the right, though, are actually leaning classical liberal, and by definition, that means tolerant. And we're not seeing a bunch of that right now, because the folks that are against Trump, some of them for pure reasons, by the way, I don't disagree with their reasoning. I get it, I understand it, and the key word we'll talk about in the Enigma Report, I respect it. But what they'll do is that they're glomming on to news sources that in the past, historically, they would never even listen to. But they're grabbing onto all of the left's messages to act like parrots. I'm sorry, folks, that's what I see. So they're in there ringing that bell on the left, and I'm going, wait a minute. You're the most conservative person I've ever met. You're ringing the left's silly messaging because it fits the message you want. It helps destroy Trump. What I don't get out of that is if we destroy Trump, we get Hillary. One of those 2 people, like it or not, one of them is going to win. Gary Johnson, folks, the news blast here. Fox News alert. He ain't going to be president. He's too stoned to be president. Look at him. I'm sorry. He's not going to get double digits. It will either be Hillary or Trump. Period. That's the news alert. One of them are going to be president. Which one do you want? Do you want yesterday or do you want tomorrow? It's that simple.
Well, and it's a bit of a stretch to call Hillary yesterday, given all that we're seeing in WikiLeaks. It's like, do you want corruption?
It is corruption. Well, yeah. But I think yesterday is filled with corruption. I think Washington, D.C. and the media, I think what we're seeing now, it looks like a new evolution of corruption. I don't believe it. I think that this bloodbath we call an election cycle is peeling back a couple layers of onions for us to see the real them. WikiLeaks as an example. Yeah. If they were absent from this, we would all still be babbling about whether Trump was vulgar 11 years ago or not. But every single day, it's more of just like Congressman Hoekstra was talking about, where she supported ISIS. And you go, who in their right mind, this isn't left or right, who in their right mind would vote for an American who supported ISIS?
But I would throw this back to you, and I'd say, this isn't unique to 216. I think this same level of corruption was going on all of our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my point.
18
Absolutely.
minutes. 18 minutes got a president to have to resign and be forced to resign so he didn't go to prison, and then cost another president after that another term because he got pardoned. 18 minutes. Yeah, we know for a fact more than 18 emails were sent to Obama, and Obama replied, and nothing will happen. 18 minutes versus 30,000 emails.
Part of the difference, though, part of it is, first off, I blame it entirely on the electorate. Having said that, one of the things that I want to, in fact, I've got it slated to talk about in this hour, is that we're absolutely overrun. We're bathed in information, but there's so much information that folks have now elected to say, okay, there's so much I can't take it all in, so I'm only going to listen to the stuff I agree with. And I got to tell you, folks, that's very, very dangerous. The person, the entity, the company, whatever you want to call it, that can find a way to filter the information down to a truth stream that folks can follow, understand, not agree or disagree with, but know that it's the truth. Whoever can come up with that recipe for a news cycle, they're going to do very, very well. Because the folks are just, both sides of the aisle are absolutely overrun with information while they, it's amazing.
So Sarah, let me ask you, because you're a millennial, I'm on the edge. Like, I'm 81, and everything goes to 80 and then 82 and beyond. So I'm like that lost year.
Well, she's not way beyond you. She's 82.
Yeah. So I don't even really consider millennial, because I really think, in my opinion, the millennials are the ones that are about 30 and younger, because we're right on that cusp with the Gen Xers and the millennials. But what do you think? Because Fox News has really been around since, it's been 20 years, so when we start paying attention, our late teens maybe, where we actually start grasping what we're paying attention to, do you think that we have a different output on this, Sarah, or outlook, because we're used to this 24-hour news cycle versus they're used to the newspaper being the news and not history?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I tell you, I have a daughter who is very well informed in the current events, and I have to debate her on a regular basis because she listens and believes and soaks in so much of what her teachers are telling her, and that's, I think, where our downfall is.
But we try to teach reverence for teachers, and then we send them in there knowing that the teachers are largely in contrast to what our beliefs and value system is. But that's really the cusp of it. We have a different beliefs and value system than they do, but we're surrendering our children to them, which is why I was quoting Malcolm X as I smacked my forehead. What are we thinking?
I got to confess, so I told my 16-year-old to ignore some of his teachers. So maybe that makes me a bad person, but...
No, I've done the same thing. But the fact they're doing debates and discussions in high school about abortion and capital punishment and all these things that, honestly, I don't think that they're intellectually prepared or ready to make those kinds of decisions.
Exactly.
No, and they'll take those decisions they make at a freshman year in high school, and that'll end up being their life thought.
Exactly.
I know for me still, there's things I probably thought in high school that I still think today that may or may not be wrong. Same for you, Sarah. We obviously went through that transitional phrase change in school from Mike and Spock's era to now what our kids will go through. I feel like we were in that transitional phrase where we got early on, we got what they had, and then in the latter years, we got what's the new way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
It's kind of nice to have somebody who understands what I'm talking about.
Sarah, I got a quick question for you, because I'm sure you probably got an appreciation for this. How about this phenomenon of a free space on the university campuses?
The free space for religion studies or
safe space.
Yeah, safe space.
That's where you're not going to be told anything that you disagree with.
I mean, honestly, in today's society, I kind of feel like it's a necessity, only because you can't pray or do what you want to do in a corner that's not safe without fear of somebody who doesn't have the same beliefs coming at you.
I don't understand the concept of safe. To me, that is in contrast to the First Amendment. And not only that, I think it's defeatist of our future. I think how we make our future better is that we bring all of these ideas to the arena of ideas and find out which works best. We don't go hide in the locker room. We don't go stick our head in the sand. Folks, how long do we've got? Seconds? We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com, because you deserve it.
This is News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
And you're listening to the second anniversary hour of the Mike Hewitt Show.
It's like the special edition.
That's what it is. Special edition.
Special ed. This just in. Listen,
like
folks.
Trip back to the smorgasbord.
Yeah, just what I need.
There you go.
No, you don't.
Listen, folks, if you're easy, Ludwig. If you're just tuning in, Ludwig, who used to be part of the show, is here.
Yeah, no, retired party.
Special guest.
This mug will live in infamy.
And Miles Bauer, who's normally calling in from Chicago, is actually here in the great state of Michigan. And on the line with me is number 2 daughter, Sarah. And listen, what I want to talk about for a little bit in this segment. And by the way, before we run out of time, I do want to have a little bit of some personal dialogue about how the show was. We'll talk about Oscar Osbo and Jim Riley, as I know I think he's listening still. He did send me a text earlier to say that he loved his shirt that we still laugh at.
We're still waiting for the selfie with him in the shirt. Jim, send us a selfie with you in the shirt.
I don't. You may want to see him. I don't want to see him in the shirt. I think you took a liking to him that day. Anyhow, what I want to talk about, folks, is the sign war. If I put my consulting hat on, my political consulting hat on for a moment, one of the things that most of the political, as I call us, political monkeys, one of the things that we know is that signs in themselves do not equal votes, but what they do equal is a ground game and enthusiasm. And so we heard for months leading up to the last 60 days that Trump had absolutely no possibility of winning because he did not have a ground game, that he was weak in all of the states, including Michigan. Now, keep in mind, folks, if you're new to the show, by coincidence, I chair the 2nd District Republican Committee, so I'm fairly involved. I watch the signage, at least in the 2nd Congressional District, which goes up the lakeshore, a few counties. And when I drive through, I see an overwhelming, shocking number of Donald Trump signs in people's yards, both regular yard signs in someone's yard and also big 4x8 sheets. And by the way, folks, also from early when people couldn't get signs, which is the same in every presidential race, there's a time period where people are excited and they want signs, can't get them, so they make their own or have their own printed. And on that note, I saw a lot of folks, at least in the 2nd District, where they invested personal money to make sure that there were enough signs to go. I'm talking thousands. A couple thousand ran through my shop where I was used as a distribution center. I tell you all that because it measures enthusiasm. So I get the polling, and let's assume for a minute the polling is actually measuring what people believe. I reject that, but let's assume for a moment it does. I don't know that means the same thing as to who's going to turn out, because we hear a lot of division on our side, the never Trumpers, the this, the that's. The media never tells you that it's the same, only more heated on the other side. There are some Bernie Sanders supporters, especially as a result of WikiLeaks, that have, rightfully so, I got to tell you, I'll defend them, rightfully so, their hair is on fire as WikiLeaks is dumping out what the Hillary campaign did to sink their effort. And there's a lot of folks that go, yeah, I don't like Trump, and yeah, I support her, but I'm going to be busy on Tuesday. What do you guys think?
How many of us out of the 5 of us have been called by a pollster?
I have several times.
On your cell phone or your house phone? Do you still have a landline?
Yeah, I'm old, remember?
Yeah,
of course I still have a landline.
You still got the rotary dial, right? So you've had one. Have you ever had one?
My wife got called the other night.
Okay. Brian?
How'd that call go? Wait, how'd that call go? Did they hang up on her?
Well, she didn't say. She's a never Trumper.
Oh, she is a never Trumper.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she said, "I'm voting for."
They were a little bit disturbed when she didn't pick a Senate candidate.
Okay.
Because she says, "Well, I just haven't decided," and
they're like, "You mean there's a decision to make?"
Exactly. And then I think she went third party. for the
so
president.
So her keys will be miraculously missing that day.
So she will probably show up as a Hillary supporter.
You think she'll
in the poll?
Yeah, probably. Did you get? Brian? Did you get any polling?
No.
See, I'm listed on the state website for the Republican Party, and I think when people are out buying lists for phone calls, which is where these phone calls come from, I think that the folks that are directly involved automatically end up in, because I get a lot of phone calls, most of them to my cell phone, but that's the one that's published. But I do get some to my home, and I get a mountain of candidate information from low level all the way up to the presidential level. Wheelbarrows full.
I don't believe these polls. I know everybody says, well,
you
Romney,
just don't want to believe them.
No. The history of the election says you should believe them. The history of the election also says Donald Trump shouldn't be there. The history of the election says Donald Trump should have been KO'd after his comments after the first debate about Megyn Kelly, and all he did was get stronger.
But he was right.
Been
I'm just saying, but he was right.
Exactly.
Anyone wants to see Megyn Kelly and her position on women need to Google pictures of Megyn Kelly model.
Yeah.
Okay? Because then all of a sudden you're not seeing this astute-looking lawyer that's there to destroy Republicans. Then you see a very, very different Megyn Kelly. I'm just saying.
So everything's been non-traditional. So to say that we are going to take some things that are traditionally done, that none of them have actually fit the race yet.
Yep.
But this one will. I don't believe it. Do not believe it. And maybe I got blinders on and I'm sitting in the gutter.
So you think the polls are rigged?
I think they're wrong. You take a sample size of 500, and 80% of those are Democrats.
Listen,
of course your poll's going to come out saying she wins.
But wait, the unfair part about that is there were counties where President Obama won 120 and 130% of the entire voting pool.
Well, it's just like me giving 110% when I play hockey. It's possible, right?
One of the things that where I think you may be on to something is that if this election truly does bring out people who haven't voted in 30 years, pollsters don't know where these people are.
Right, they can't find them.
I've never been
numbers.
called. My family, there's 5 of us in my immediate family. None of us have been called, plus all of our significant others. None of them been called. My uncle just posted today, where are these pollsters coming? None of him, his wife, or his 6 kids and their spouses have ever been called.
But they listen to the show. That proves the pollsters listen to this show, and they remember you in the primary in the same episode saying you supported both Cruz and Trump.
So what does that matter?
They said, don't waste my time calling that guy.
I had to vote for Cruz.
Yeah? You had to.
I'm surrounded by cruisers.
But I can tell you the day Trump announced, I ran to the shop and I said, Trump's running. And you're like, he'll never win.
Listen,
moron. I said, but he's running. And you said, Cruz the guy. I'm like, I know, but Trump's running.
Listen, one of the points that we talked about early on, and this is taking us off the path, so we'll just go there for a moment. But listen, I'm still a cruiser. Miles knows that. Anyone that knows me knows that. But the reality of our culture, which is our Enigma Report today, is that you cannot have a classical liberal Jeffersonian win. When he stands up there and talks about Constitution, the people's eyes glaze over and they don't care. Yeah. And that's just the truth of a general election.
I think you had other candidates, though, that hijacked that message and then went to Washington and didn't do anything.
Oh, that's very true.
So now it's become just a false narrative.
Send in the guy that will flip over the tables.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you get pollsters down there?
I have not been polled.
No? Okay, you got yard signs in your neighborhood?
We do not have yard signs in my neighborhood.
Is that an association thing where they have removed First Amendment or just nobody cares?
I think everybody's too afraid of their neighbors.
Okay.
So then it must be Republicans because liberals are never afraid to voice their opinion.
Oh, they're in their face. And when you make a deal with them and shake hands, they immediately begin their new campaign against whatever the agreement was you just arrived at. So
I do have to tell you, I do a lot of driving for a living in the middle of nowhere in Cornfield, Ohio. It is Trump, Trump, Trump signs everywhere.
Well, listen, we talked about that off the air a couple of segments ago, where it's city mouse versus country mouse. Listen, we're going to a break, and we'll be back after a few messages. Is that right? We'll be right back.
RenegadeRiver.com is new and used firearms, all priced to sell, plus ammo, reloading supplies, optics, clothing, lasers, and yes, tactical gear. RenegadeRiver.com, family owned right here in Michigan, because you deserve it.
Now, Back to the Mike Hewitt Show on News Talk 1090 WKBZ and Talk 1230 WTKG.
And the Mike Hewitt Show is brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com.
3, 2, 1, 0.
You have arrived to your final destination on your journey through reality. Welcome to the Enigma Report.
The enigma for me, folks, is the change in our culture. We touch on it a little bit in each show. I wanted to do a segment to just ask what's going on, and is this really what we want to be happening? We talked early in one of the earlier segments, I think it was in the first hour, about the word respect. It feels like the word respect is absent, or at least not near as strong as it used to be. But then I question myself, is that my vantage from an older generation? Is that just what I'm hearing from the media, but it's not a true thing? Is there respect? So I ask, Sarah, you're still with us. Tell me from the female side and from a person in business, do you see respect within your peer group for each other and for our culture?
I do. I'm fortunate enough to work in a company that celebrates cultural diversity and different beliefs, and so I see it.
I got to tell you, I've been to places, family, by the way, and I let me fess up for a second. I've been really blessed. I've got 4 really wonderful daughters, and I don't want to get anyone confused. It's not that they don't have disagreements, and you always got drama when you're trying to get 4 different worlds with husbands and kids, and life gets confusing. But honest, folks, I've been very blessed with having 4 very respectful daughters, at least to me. I get a lot of respect for them, and I return it. I have a lot of respect for them, which is, and Ludwig knows that, which is why he arranged for this. So what I'm telling you, though, is that I've been in other situations, restaurants with family, extended family, where the children are talking to their parents like, holy mackerel. I would never talk that. My mother's still alive. My dad isn't. My dad and I, Miles, we were in business. There was some bumpy times back then. I wouldn't talk to my dad in the worst of those business times the way I hear people talk to their parents in restaurants or in extended family circumstances. Even in the worst of business, I wouldn't do that. Miles, your mother is still alive. You've had your disagreements like every family does. I've never heard you F-bomb your mother. That's not how our generation talked. And I hear it as a common word now, like is and was. I don't understand that. Honest, folks, I don't. I can't get my head around the new way we communicate with each other. So you two younger folks, or Miles, somebody jump in and help me understand.
I would say this. I think it goes back to the fundamental unit of the U.S., which is the family unit.
Yes.
And so it is a mechanism that can be used to untwine the family unit. And if they can untwine that, they can untwine a community, they can pull apart a county, they can pull apart a state, and now all of a sudden we are simply beholden.
That's how they get us dependent on them.
I do look at this a little bit differently.
No.
And it's funny, I was just talking we had teacher conferences last night, and I give this spiel to the teachers every year when I come in. I want to know, what's my kid doing? And if you email me, I'm not coming in blaming you. I'm blaming my own kid. What did they do wrong, not what did you do wrong? So she's talking about some sass they had. She was doing a spelling test, and the word was like building. And the new building's going to be open soon. And she said in the middle of the spelling test, some kids went, not soon enough, and started some other things. I'm like, are you kidding? I would have got a 0. Then she said something else. She's talking. I said, here's the problem. If I said that, my mom would have put me 3 rooms over. And not walked me 3 rooms over, put me 3 walls over. She'd put me through the 3 walls to get me in that room. My dad would have done the same thing.
But
if
nowadays,
you do that today, you will go to jail.
Yeah.
It just happened to an older grandma. She switched to the granddaughter's arm.
Listen,
they called the cops. They put her in jail. You know what her response was? I'll never do it again because I don't go back to jail.
Yeah, but listen, I got to tell you now, I remember talking, in fact, I Facebook message with Jana Konecki from time to time. In the 4 years, she was one of my favoriteest interviews. And it kind of fits into where we're talking right now, because Jana Kanechi, we did a 1 hour show. It was 3 segments. The first segment, she talked about what life was like in the Soviet Union as a child. Growing up, she remembered literally seeing only vodka and bread in the general store. She talked about an absence. We didn't have Christmas. We had a winter holiday season with Stalin and religion as the opium of the people. And she talked about a very dystopian, like, black and gray kind of world, like watching an old TV. And then she talked about raising her own kids and how the government took over at a very young age in raising them, and it takes a village to raise children. No, it takes parents, strong parents. And by the way, it takes more love to say no than it does yes. I'm just telling you, folks. Well, I got to the third segment with Jana, and I said, Jana, you've been in the United States for a long time. She came over, by the way, after the Soviet Union collapsed because of their healthcare system and a bunch of other things. They financially imploded, is the real truth about that. But she came over when the wall fell. And so I said, you've been in the United States for a while. What have you been seeing? She said, that's what I've been telling you for the last 40 minutes. And folks, it scared the bejeebers out of me. And if it doesn't scare you, you better pay attention, because we're on a slippery slope. We really are. And to me, Miles was spot on. It's about those fundamental things that are respect that come from family. We've talked about it on the show a lot. Last year, you had 48% of the births in the United States were born to unwed mothers, not teenage pregnancies, adult women they're not married, and whether they have an intention or not. And then I look at Jackson Prison. You do a survey of how many people in there came from single-parent families. Folks, that's what happens in the course of life. It is not a lifestyle direction for an entire country to embrace.
And the only defense I would put up there, as you know, my father died when I was 7.
Yep.
So I was raised by a single-parent family, but I still had that father figure that I remembered as a child.
Sure.
So there was still a strong parenting. That structure was still fundamentally there. Maybe not physically there.
Well, they say, and I'm the uneducated guy in the room, but as I understand it, they'll say that your foundation comes to you in your first 7 years of life, and that's the number that they name. You're who you're going to be at 3, and your foundation is there and set in stone. I'm not saying you can't shift it, but who you are, generally speaking, by the time you get to 7 is who you are. And it comes from having strong parents. Both parents pray so. But listen, even George Moss, when he was a black guy from this other side of the state, who's a teacher, was a teacher, then a principal at a public school, and now a lecturer at U of M. Great guy, came up in a single family, though. But he talked about his mother. He said, my mother knocked me into next week.
Yeah.
He said she was a strong mother, and this is what was going to be. It wasn't like time to debate. This is what I told you. The law has been set down.
My mom could drive the car and end up in the back seat and in the front seat in a split second. Now, next thing you know, I'm just dazed.
And then listen,
what just happened?
Yeah, but the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think this is foundational. And it goes to Miles's point, the absent or family or the morphing of family. Nowadays, when you say a nuclear family, you're looked at like you just said the KKK. What's wrong with a nuclear family? Because that's what it takes to raise healthy children. Can children be raised healthy in a single-parent atmosphere? I was a single parent. I already told you I'm proud of my daughters. But it isn't what the nation should be striving for.
No. Now, Greg Stevens, a good friend of yours, said, look at TV and movies and behavior celebrated like mouthing off. And he's right. I say this all the time. If you watch the Disney Channel, some of these kids are throwing tantrums and they get what they want. They're making little kids superheroes beating up adults. Yeah. And you're like, wait a second, this isn't real life. When Archie Bunker came around, that was insane. Then Roseanne. Roseanne might be the turning point show where those kids mouthed off and the parents are arguing and talking horribly to each other.
Remember Murphy Brown having a debate with Quayle about lifestyle choices?
Yeah.
That was the turning point. At that point in time, you had single-parent rates in the 15% range, and most of them were teen pregnancies. Now we've made a lifestyle cultural change. We have decided to reinvent these words, and the problem with it is that we better like the product we're getting, because we are on a slippery slope unless we get a hold of ourselves. I've said many, many times on this show, if our goal is to save America, we better start by saving the American family, including inner city America, and if we don't, we're wasting our time. Sarah, listen, thank you very, very much for joining me. Ludwig, thank you for doing that. Miles, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's been a lot of, you know what, we need another hour, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
There's still not enough time to cover all that we wanted to call.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And listeners, folks, seriously, the show wouldn't be without you. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate the Facebook comments, the listeners, even the folks yelling at me right now on the radio. I appreciate you, too. Thank you, folks, very much. And we'll be back in a week, and we'll kick it off and start working towards our 5th. Folks, thank you very much. Have a great week.
Renegade River, guns and ammo, and so much more. Old-fashioned service with surprisingly low prices. On M104 at the top of the new 231 bypass in Utica. Or find us at renegaderiver.com because you deserve it.